This is a Channel 2 News special presentation, Decision 2014.
Alaskans are making their voices heard at the ballot box. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Channel 2's coverage of Decision 2014.
It's an election that's important to the 49th state, of course, but it's also getting nationwide attention and nationwide implications. Alaska's race for the U.S. Senate could add to the shift in the balance of power on Capitol Hill.
Now we have crews out covering all of the election hotspots tonight,
including down at Election Central at the Egan Center, where Channel 2's Steve McDonald and Rebecca Palsha will be covering the issues and the candidates.
And the race for the U.S. Senate seat here in Alaska is expected by many to be very close.
We have crews at the election night watch parties for the top two candidates. Channel 2's Grace Chang is with Republican candidate Dan Sullivan, and Nikki Carvajal has been side by side with Senator Mark Begich throughout the day.
We also have crews at the watch parties for the two leading candidates for governor of Alaska.
Adam Pinsker is at Governor Sean Parnell's watch party event, and Lacey Grossvold is with the Bill Walker Byron Malott ticket at their watch party downtown.
All right, we go back in time now. Mark Begich beat Senator Ted Stevens by 4,000 votes 6 years ago. Just days after Stevens was convicted in federal court, it was a conviction that was later overturned because of prosecutor misconduct.
The entire country is watching Alaska tonight to see if the Republican Party can retake that Senate seat. Channel 2's Steve McDonald is standing by now with GOP candidate for the U.S. Senate, Dan Sullivan. Steve.
I guess just stay.
Steve, go ahead.
Getting directions there.
Okay, we're down here at the Egan Convention Center, Mike and Maria, and something a little bit unusual. We don't have any results in, but we have our first candidate who's come into the hall, Dan Sullivan, of course. Thanks for coming in today.
Nice to see you, Henry. Nice to see you.
Obviously, he's got his supporters right here behind us as well. No results as yet, just checking the computer screen just now, Dan. How are you feeling right now? How are you handling this?
I mean, the first thing I want to say is what a privilege it is to run for office, right? And thank Alaskans for opening up their homes, places of worship. One of the great privileges when you run for office is you get to meet people, hear their concerns, and so I just want to thank everybody. Right? It's been a very humbling experience. We've had great supporters, as you can see here, and pretty rowdy. Huge privilege, and I also just want to thank my wife and kids. Right?
Okay.
Sometimes a campaign can be a little rough and tumble, and so your families are involved, and so I'm very proud of my wife and daughters. We ran a campaign. We told our supporters we were going to run a campaign that they could be proud of, and we did that. And that's what I wanted our supporters to know and Alaskans to know.
How do you feel right now about the campaign that ended at basically 8 o'clock tonight when the polls closed? What's going through your mind right now? You got butterflies, you're on pins and needles.
Of course.
Describe that.
I said, we ran a campaign that we wanted our supporters with Alaskans to be proud of, right? The issues, my record, what we want to try to get done, and then also to run through the tape, right? I've been telling my team, look, we run like we're 20 points down in the polls. Don't look at the polls. So we've been out there. We had final rallies in Fairbanks, in the Kenai, in the Valley, and then a big rally in Anchorage yesterday. Hundreds of people coming out. So we feel energized, but we ran through the tape.
Mm-hmm. At this point, we still don't have numbers yet, but do you feel like you've won at this point?
No, absolutely not. No way. I mean, we're on pins and needles waiting. But like I said, we left nothing on the battlefield. So that's important.
What do your polls tell you? What do your analysts tell you about what's going to happen tonight?
Well, again, Steve, I'm not. Polls can say one thing. Like I said to my team, I don't even want to know what the polls are. We're going to run super hard, energize our base, which is what we did. I mean, what I was really excited about, not the polls, but in the last 3 days, literally 400 supporters came out in Fairbanks, probably 600 in the Valley, close to 1,000 in Anchorage yesterday, 250 in the Kenai. I mean, we were getting excited supporters to come out, and to me, I think that's going to be the key issue tonight.
How about nationally? We've seen this Republican wave. They've done well. They've captured the Senate.
Yeah.
Do you feel that wave, that surge of of GOP support. Does it come all the way up here to Alaska?
Well, we'll
Does it
see.
reach
I mean,
Alaska?
one of the things that I campaigned on clearly was that we need a new direction in the country. And I think what we're seeing with this wave is that a lot of our fellow Americans agree with that. Whether that translates into Alaska, we'll see in a few hours.
All right.
Good.
Good luck to you. We'll talk to you a little bit
All
later
right,
on. We
good.
know Grace is
Nice to
over
see
at
you.
your headquarters.
Thanks so much.
Good luck to you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's Dan Sullivan, the Republican candidate for the United States Senate. As he says, he's on pins and needles awaiting our first results. Mike, Maria, we're still waiting for our first results.
No numbers just yet.
And
Go back to you guys.
Steve and Rebecca, as you were doing that interview with Dan Sullivan, we got the first wave of numbers in from the Division of Elections. We'll get them up on the screen in just a minute, but reading off the computer screen here, Dan Sullivan has 49.5% to Mark Begich's 44%. That's with roughly 23% of the vote in. Again, the first wave of numbers just coming in. We'll get them up on the screen. You might have been seeing the ticker that's going across your screen. The upper level there has the major races, and then the bottom level has all the races across the state of Alaska. But again, at this point, with 23% of the precincts reporting, Dan Sullivan is leading with 49% to Mark Begich's 44%.
And more results are trickling in as we speak. This is the first campaign for elected office for the Republican challenger for the U.S. Senate seat.
Dan Sullivan supporters are waiting for the results to come in, and Channel 2's Grace Jang is at Sullivan's election night watch party with more on the reaction there. Grace?
Well, Mike and Maria, Channel 2 News is actually on right now at the Dan Sullivan campaign watch party here at the Captain Cook Hotel. And Mike, right when you announced the result, there was a loud cheer as there is going on right now. And many of his supporters are with Dan Sullivan at the Egan Center, but I did have a chance to talk to a few of his supporters earlier before they left for the Egan Center, and they told me that they're really excited about his military experience, his humility, and the fact that he can take the country into a different direction. So there's a very committed, very excited base here at the Captain Cook tonight, and they're going to be with him through the end. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Grace. Now, by some estimates, the race for U.S. Senate here in Alaska has been the most expensive in Alaska history because of all that money pouring in from outside for all the political ads you've been seeing on TV.
Millions and millions of dollars. Democrat Mark Begich is trying to hold on to that seat right now. Channel 2's Nikki Carvajal is at Senator Mark Begich's watch party. Nikki.
Mike, Maria, pretty big crowd here, still waiting on Senator Mark Begich to arrive, but cautiously optimistic, I would say, is the tone. I've spoken with a couple supporters tonight who have been really worried about the trends they've been seeing in the lower 48 with tonight's midterm. But as you can hear, very enthusiastic crowd. They're really looking forward to the senator arriving. And just, a quick reaction to these very, very early result numbers. Didn't really hear much among the crowd, and we're still hearing chants for the senator right now. Another thing that we're really hearing from supporters is that they're just happy that this race is over. Everybody here seems very tired, pretty exhausted, but once again, still very enthusiastic. Really happy to be here and excited to see the senator tonight and what ends up coming out. Now, the polls did have Sullivan beating Begich, and a lot of people were aware of that here, but a lot of people were hoping that because polling in Alaska is so tough, that wasn't going to happen and that Begich was going to pull through. Once again, after we did hear those initial numbers, not much of a reaction from the crowd. Heard a couple of claps, but other than that, not really much happening. Still chanting, still waiting for the senator to arrive. Not quite sure what the holdup is. We did hear at one point he was going to be here right at 9, but as of right now, we're hearing possibly 9:30 or maybe even later. Mike, Maria.
Okay, we'll check back with you, Nikki, so when the senator does arrive.
Nikki raises a very good point. Those numbers are very, very early. We're talking 22, 23%. Still got a long night to go, and really no reason for either candidate to be feeling really self-assured at this point. It's still very early.
It's very early. Let's take a look at the numbers right now with more precincts reporting. Here we go.
And there we go in the U.S. Senate races we talked about, with 101 of 441 precincts reporting. Dan Sullivan at 49.4% of the vote to incumbent Mark Begich's 44.4%. And in the governor's race.
In the governor's race, right now, Governor Sean Parnell with 45.75% of the vote. And leading right now is Bill Walker at 48.66%. But once again, that is just 101 out of 441 precincts reporting at this time.
All right, Alaska has one seat in the House of Representatives, and Don Young with a commanding lead with the early vote in at 52% to Jim McDermott's 8%, and Democrat Forrest Dunbar running a respectable 39% at this point. And let's go out now. Are we going to the Egan Center?
We are. The governor's seat is up for grabs as well, with the top contenders being incumbent Governor Sean Parnell and non-affiliated challenger Bill Walker.
Adam Pinsker's with the Bill Walker's crew and has the latest. Adam?
And good evening from downtown Anchorage. We're at the re-election party headquarters of Governor Sean Parnell, and I'm joined by the guest of honor, Governor Parnell. How was your last day of campaigning? What'd you do?
You know, it was great. We started off at about 7 a.m. with sign waving on the street corners, moved into meeting and greeting customers in local restaurants. I went door to door to do some get out the vote efforts, and actually had some success there with people coming to the polls. So I love Election Day. Alaskans get their say, and this is that day. It's great.
How are you feeling right now?
You know, right now I'm cautiously optimistic, and I'm just looking forward to getting the votes counted. But there's a lot to be counted yet.
Does the fact that this race tightened over the past few weeks with that fusion ticket on the other side, does that surprise you how close this has been the last couple weeks?
No, we knew that if it went to a two-way race instead of a three-way race, that it was that would tighten up things. But I worked to get our message across to Alaskans of economic growth and opportunity, and how we want to continue making that path forward for them. So we continued on with the same message. Those are the policies I've pursued, and that's where we're headed.
I think, you know, as Alaskans, we pride ourselves as being different, but you've seen some surprising Republican pickups in states like Maryland and Illinois, Florida as well. Do you think that maybe Alaskans see this early on, and that may help you make a late rush and win re-election?
Well, listen, Alaskans didn't have the benefit of watching that kind of news, you know, when they were voting, but I think Alaskans understand what economic opportunity looks like. They understand the new jobs that have been created. They understand that the gas line's being built. I'm looking forward to getting the vote in tonight.
Well, stick around, because we'll keep you around for an update. Thank you so much for joining us. We are live in downtown Anchorage. Adam Pinsker, Channel 2 News.
All right, thanks, Adam. Glad the governor will be sticking around a little longer for this election night. And independent candidate Bill Walker teamed up with Democratic governor candidate Byron Malott to create a non-affiliated ticket.
And Channel 2's Lacey Groswald is with the governor candidate's campaign at Bill Walker headquarters tonight. Lacey?
We're live at the Performing Arts Center. I'm here with Bill Walker right now. Bill, you traveled to Fairbanks earlier today. Some people might say so much traveling right before people vote, that might be taking a risk. Did it pay off?
Well, it did. It was important to me to go to Fairbanks because I was born in Fairbanks. And so I'd made a commitment. Byron and I both made commitments that he wanted to be where he was born on Election Day. I wanted to be where I was born on Election Day. So I went to Fairbanks, and Byron went to Yakutat. He's on his way back from Yakutat. And so it's important. You know, it's our roots. It's you know, two lifelong Alaskans we want to remember, and it was emotional for me to be in Fairbanks today. I mean, I arrived there. You know, there was a sign waving of it must have been 100 people there at these intersections, all with signs, and it was like two above. Didn't deter anybody. A beautiful day. It was a great day to be in Fairbanks. So we did sign wave in the morning, did a bunch of stuff in the morning, voted. Then flew to Fairbanks, up there for about 3 or 4 hours, and then back and did more sign waving. So it's been a full day.
All right, and I saw it was kind of an emotional moment earlier where your daughter, who's also your spokesperson, told you the initial results. How did that feel to feel those first results?
Oh, it felt really good. I really wasn't prepared for that because this evening is all about thanking the volunteers for what they have done, and I just wasn't prepared for the results. I mean, it's a small lead. We're excited about that. We've learned that, you know, we need to wait until all the votes are in and whatnot. But I'll take whatever lead is a lead, and I'm very excited about that. But it's a result of people in this room, people across the state. This has been, you know, there's been thousands of people involved in this campaign as volunteers that just share our vision for Alaska, share our passion for Alaska. So I'm excited about where we are. Anxious to see how the rest of the night continues on.
All right, thanks, Bill. Live from the Performing Arts Center, Lacey Grosfold, Channel 2 News.
All right, thanks, Lacey. And we have more numbers coming in. So let's take a look at the ballot measures that voters faced on the ballot today. Proposition 1, it is about 8:37. Should it remain the law? Should it be repealed? Right now, yes vote, 46%, no leading 54%, with 23 out of 122 Anchorage area is reporting right now. That's just an Anchorage proposition.
Right, and again, the repeal vote winning at this point. Ballot Measure 2, that's the proposal that would legalize marijuana use in Alaska. Having a little trouble with the graphic there, so I'm not quite sure what the numbers are. Let's come back to that one. Let's go on to the next one.
Looks like it's cutting off a little bit there. And Ballot Measure 3, which would increase Alaska's minimum wage. Right now, yes, the yes vote's winning 70% compared to 30%, with 101 out of 441 precincts reporting at this time.
And Ballot Measure 4, that's for protection of the Bristol Bay wild salmon and waters. Right now, a commanding lead for the yes vote for this measure is would give authority to the legislature to approve any large-scale mining in the Bristol Bay region. So in addition to the permitting process, state lawmakers would have to say yes as well. Right now, votes at 66% for yes and 34% for no. And we'll get those numbers for the marijuana measure right after we come back from this break.
Channel 2 News continues its coverage of Decision 2014.
All right, welcome back. We mentioned just a few moments ago Ballot Measure 2 that would legalize marijuana here in Alaska. I had a little trouble with our graphics, so let's take a look at those numbers again. Ballot Measure 2, right now the yes vote is leading with 53%, to the no vote 46%. Again, that's with 101 out of 441 precincts reporting, roughly 23% of the precincts across Alaska reporting at this point. Still pretty early in this one.
And now we're going to go off to the Egan Central Election Center, where Rebecca Palsha is standing by with the people who did not want that passed. Rebecca.
Good evening, Mike and Maria. As you said, I'm with Deborah Williams tonight. She's been campaigning against pot becoming legalized in Alaska. What do you think as you watch these numbers come in?
The night is young. Most importantly is we are so proud of the statewide, all-Alaskan grassroots effort that we did to educate Alaskans about this initiative that was outside funded, based on Colorado, and really seeks to commercialize marijuana in Alaska. We had the most fabulous group of volunteers who sought to get the word out, got tremendous endorsements, and really, again, pointed out the issues associated with this initiative. So we're just very proud of the campaign.
Now, Oregon also passed an initiative similar to this tonight, and as you said, D.C. did kind of a similar one as well. Do you feel like at all that you were fighting against a moving tide?
Our goal was to point out the issues in this particular initiative, to really ask Alaskans, do you want to commercialize marijuana, and do you want to commercialize it in a way that looks like Colorado, with all of the problems that Colorado has been having. We were tremendously outspent by outside funds. We were 100% Alaska funded, and we just had so much energy getting the word out. So we felt that we would do our very best to educate Alaskans, and again, we're so proud of our Alaska-based and thoughtful, intelligent, information-based campaign.
Did you find this was a partisan issue at all, or did it cross party lines?
One wonderful thing about so many aspects of this was how bipartisan it was. So Democrats and Republicans and people in the Tea Party and others all worked together, because we really felt that this was not in Alaska's best interest, not in the best interest of our youth, not in the best interest of our public health, safety, even our budget. And so we all came together because we really care so much about these issues and wanted to make sure that Alaskans had the best information possible. It was tough, though, because we were dramatically outspent by outside lower $48.
All right, thanks so much, Deborah Williams.
Thank you so much.
Mike and Maria, back to you guys.
Okay, Rebecca, we look forward to hearing from the other side when they arrive at Election Central. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
All right, Twitter and Facebook are all abuzz tonight over the election here in Alaska.
Oh, yes, we've been hearing from our Channel 2 viewers all across the state on social media tonight. Tracy Sinclair is keeping track of the Twitter traffic for us.
Good evening, Mike and Maria. Well, one of the topics that was very big this year was getting out the Alaska Native vote. And based on what Dawson Hoover is reporting, it seemed to have been pretty effective. 2,760 unofficial casts in 20 western Alaskan communities with an estimated 52.9% turnout. That is amazing. The highest turnout was in Chifornak and Good News Bay at 73%. And just a couple of the other numbers that we've got sent in. Quinnipiac came in at 55% of their population voted. Scammon Bay, 68%, just amazing percentages. Tooksuk Bay at 55%, and Tanunuk came in at 47%. So just amazing numbers out in the bush. Of course, these are unofficial and sent to Twitter by Dawson Hoover. Now, across other parts of the state, we are looking at some things that are a little bit, different. And one of the issues that came up, well, Byron Malott is going to be a little bit longer in Juneau than he anticipated, and that supposedly is because the plane that he was supposed to be flying out of Juneau got struck by lightning. So as it was coming out of Sitka, it looks like he is on the 10:10 flight that is coming out of Juneau later on tonight. Of course, we want to hear what you have to say, and you can follow along by doing hashtag AKElect, hashtag AKSend, or AKGov. Check us out.
Tracy's all over the social media
wow.
stuff, huh?
I'm doing it. Stuck by lightning.
On her tweets. My goodness. All right, thanks, Tracy. We'll check back within a few minutes. All right, Rebecca Palsha had the anti-legalized marijuana side of just a few minutes ago. Let's go back out to Election Central. The Egan Center, Steve McDonald is standing by with the proponents of legalizing marijuana here in the 49th state. Steve?
That's right, Mike and Maria. Tim Hinterberger, who is with the pro-legalization of marijuana side. So far, so good. The news for you tonight so far. We've got just about 21%, 22% of the vote in, but a lead.
Right, yeah, the early returns look positive. We've known all along that a lot of Alaskans were eager to change our drug policy, our marijuana policy in this state. But it's early returns, and well, we'll just be watching as they come in.
What parts of the state do you feel are going to give you the most support as they roll in? Will it be in the rail belt? Will it be in the village?
Yeah, I haven't studied the polling results. I'm just thinking back to 10 years ago in 2004, the last time this was on the ballot in Alaska. I remember that places like Juneau gave us a lot of support. Homer, we know, is another area where we have a lot of support. So it's kind of scattered. And the polling hasn't always been real accurate, so we'll just see. This is the only polling that matters tonight. We'll just see how it turns out.
I imagine that this has got to be a difficult subject to poll on and to get truly accurate numbers, or maybe even to use the term honest numbers from people.
Yeah, we've always thought so. We've always thought that there's a lot of support that people might be afraid to express to an anonymous poller or somebody who calls them up and they don't know. Talking privately with people in a lot of walks of life, when they're talking to their friends who they can be honest with, a lot of people will say, we really need to change our marijuana laws in this state. So we're hoping that they'll be honest when they go with themselves when they go into the polling place.
There were polls late in the campaign within the last couple of weeks that came out that showed this going down to defeat by almost, I think in some cases, double digits. Did you put any credence in that at all?
Well, at the same time, there was a poll that had us up by a large amount. So all we could say from that was that it was going to be close.
Okay. Tim, thanks for stopping by.
Okay.
Good luck the rest of the night.
All right, thanks.
Tim Hinterberger on the pro-legalization side. Mike, Maria, back to you in the studio.
All right, Steve, we'll be
okay.
keeping track of those numbers throughout the evening. Again, about 23% of the vote in. We're keeping on top of it.
You could hear it in the background, too, how lively it's getting all of a sudden. It's getting exciting down there.
We'll have more of our election coverage coming up right after this break.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of Decision 2014. Let's take a look at some new numbers that have just come in.
In the U.S. Senate race, again, with 123 precincts now reporting out of 441. Dan Sullivan holding on to his lead with 49.8, roughly 50% of the vote, to Mark Begich's 44%. Those are updated numbers just from the last few minutes. And the other candidates in the U.S. Senate race, Mark Fish, the Libertarian candidate, with 3.5% to Ted Giannoutzis, 2% of the vote.
Off to the governor's race, these numbers just in. Let's take a look at those numbers. Right now, Bill Walker leading at 48.4% of the vote. The governor, Parnell, 46%. That's with 123 of 441 precincts reporting at this time.
And these are with roughly 28% of the precincts reporting at this time. Also, the lesser-known candidates for governor, lieutenant governor, Kerr Clift and Andrew Lee in the Libertarian ticket with roughly 3%. and J.R. Myers and Maria Rentz with 2.5%.
And in the U.S. Race for state representative, Don Young at 52% of the vote, followed by Forrest Dunbar, the Democrat in that race, at 39%.
A respectable vote total for Forrest Dunbar, up against really a political powerhouse in the state of Alaska. Let's run through the ballot measures and propositions. Prop 1 is for the municipality of Anchorage. This is the AO37 question. Shall AO37, City Hall's new labor law, remain as the law here in town? Right now, the yes vote is trailing at 46%. No vote, which means repeal it, stands at 54%. That's with 23 out of 122 precincts reporting.
Proposition 2, let's take a look at those numbers. That is to tax and regulate marijuana in the state of Alaska. Right now, yes at 53%, no 47%. Once again, with 123 precincts reporting. We have a long ways to go on that.
And if I recall the last batch of numbers, the yes vote was up around 56%. That's come down a little bit, so we'll have to keep an eye on that as the night progresses. Ballot measure 3 is to increase Alaska's minimum wage, commanding a yes vote for this with 70% to 30% for no. And this is with 101 of 441 precincts reporting.
And ballot measure 4, which is part of the protection of Bristol Bay wild salmon in the waters. Basically, if any big mining developments are proposed, it would have to go through the legislature for approval. Right now, the yes vote 66% compared to the no 34%, with 123 precincts reporting.
All right, we mentioned the AO37 vote. Right now, the repeal vote is in the lead. Let's go back out to the Egan Center. Rebecca Palsha is standing by with Chris Birch. Rebecca?
Mike and Maria, we're with Chris Birch. Chris, we were talking a little bit about how things are looking at this point. Talk a little bit about why you think that this is shaping up the way it is.
Well, we've got about 20% of the precincts in right now, and it looks like we're down about 45 to 55%. We're down about 10%. So it's going to be close. I'm really pleased with that it is close because the yes on one group was outspent about 10 to 1. So it's very significant.
What do you think has kind of resonated with voters?
I hope that the voters understand that they're going to be safe no matter which way that goes. I mean, unfortunately, AO37 was pilloried as something that would make the community less safe. In fact, it was a taxpayer protection act. It was a good piece of legislation. It is a good piece of legislation. 7 out of 9 city contracts have already been negotiated under AO37. So I think it's I don't see anything adverse happening in the community either way.
All right. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you. You bet.
Mike, Maria, back to you guys.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca. We'll be checking with the other side of the AO37 issue in just a few moments.
And you can take a look at the key races right below us. As you can see, we do have a ticker throughout the night that'll show you the races and the propositions throughout the state. So take a look at that. Also on KTUU.com throughout the night. You can also look at the numbers right there.
Yeah, the top part of the ticker, those are the major races. The bottom ticker's got everything thrown in there, so you can just keep it watching it scroll across. And if you go to our website, KTUU.com, they've got a direct link. It's right there on the screen. Click on the Decision 2014 banner. It'll take you to the next page, and they've got a cutout kind of thing where it shows the division of election numbers as they come in. So you can scroll up and down, and you can see exactly what we're seeing as it happens.
There's also a really cool map that Kyle Hopkins designed for us. And if you go there later on in the evening, you'll get to see what part of the state went red and what part of the state went blue, and take a look at where the votes are going and coming from.
All right, more election coverage here on Channel 2 coming up in just a minute. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our coverage of Decision 2014. The Republican challenger for the U.S. Senate seat is also hosting a watch party at this hour.
Now, we heard directly from Dan Sullivan live here on Channel 2 near the top of the hour at 9 o'clock. But his supporters are enjoying a great evening tonight from their perspective, and Channel 2's Grace Jang is there at Sullivan headquarters. Grace?
Mike and Maria, I'm here at the Hotel Captain Cook, where, like you said, the Dan Sullivan supporters are very excited. And just a few minutes ago, when you reported that Dan Sullivan is ahead with 49% of the votes, and over Mark Beggage's 44%, that is with 23 precincts reporting, there was a really loud cheer. There's another very loud cheer right now. It's a very excited base. There are more supporters coming. They're expecting more than 300 people coming in through here throughout the night. Very excited. They're cheering at every moment possible, and so it's definitely going to be an interesting night here.
And it was good to hear from Dan Sullivan because, as we remember, on primary night he had laryngitis and wasn't able to speak to the media. wasn't able to speak to anybody,
That's
really.
true. So we actually heard from him early this evening. That was a plus.
Had to have his wife do the talking for him at his watch party on the primary night.
Thanks,
Well,
Grace.
as we've been telling you, the governor's seat is up for grabs tonight. The top contenders being incumbent Sean Parnell, of course, and non-affiliated challenger Bill Walker, who right now holds a lead over the incumbent.
Yes, by about 4 percentage points. Adam Pinsker is with the governor's crew and has the latest. Adam.
All right, we might have a little problem with Adam's live report there, but again, the numbers in the governor's race, let me call them up here real quick. I believe Bill Walker had, yes, he has 48% to Sean Parnell's 46%, and that is with roughly, let's see here, 28% of the votes coming in.
Okay, now we're going to go off to Lacey Grossvold, who was standing by Lacey.
He's with Bill Walker's party tonight. Lacey?
We're at Bill Walker's party at the Performing Arts Center, and I can tell you that after the initial poll results came out, it's like the crowd relaxed a little bit. And this is also a really interesting watch party because you see a lot of people from both parties. We saw Forrest Dunbar earlier, who, as you know, is the candidate, the Democratic candidate for the U.S. House, but we're also talking to a lot of people who say that they've always voted Republican, and they're here at this party too. So it's very interesting how that's worked out, and the mood here is pretty cheerful after the latest poll results. Mike and Maria?
Okay, thank you so much, Lacey. And now we're going to go back to where Adam Pinsker is watching the governor's
Party tonight.
Yeah,
Adam,
I think
what
he
you
said
got?
Bill Walker's.
Hey, Mike and Maria, good evening from the downtown Anchorage Hilton, where the room is packed. The mood has been kind of going back and forth a bit because the numbers are changing back and forth. Of course, we're at Governor Parnell's election night headquarters, who we spoke to earlier. He's joined by a number of state house candidates in the House of Representatives as well as the Senate. The Speaker of the House and the Senate President are here. Of course, the balance of the legislature is also at stake. With a number of down ticket races. You see a lot of folks here just watching returns come in. The governor is just sort of mingling about with supporters, and they're just waiting, waiting to see what happens. And each time more votes pour in for the governor, you hear more applause. There's plenty of people imbibing and enjoying themselves for now. We'll keep you updated as the situation warrants. We are live in downtown Anchorage. Adam Pinsker, Channel 2 News.
All right, Adam, even though it is still early in the night, roughly 28% of the vote in, if you're an incumbent and you're trailing by 4 or 5%, 3 or 4%, that's got to be an uncomfortable feeling. I know there's still a lot of votes to be counted tonight.
And this is the part of the election night that I like the best. It's still early on, so there's still that anticipation, the excitement. There's still that hope out there. So this is kind of the fun part of the evening, not really knowing, but you feel that tension at all the watch parties.
Fun from our perspective as spectators,
yes.
But if you're a candidate that's behind, probably not so much.
Yeah, a lot
all
at stake.
And speaking of candidates, we've been talking about this very important U.S. Senate race. Nikki Carvajal is at Mark Begich's watch party tonight. We haven't heard from the senator yet tonight, right, Nikki?
No, Mike, it's an absolutely packed house here. I've seen state legislators, I've seen at least one Anchorage Assembly member, but no Senator Begich yet. They're actually sending people across the hallway over to Sub-Zero. We're here at Flat Top. Very enthusiastic crowd waiting for the senator to arrive. Channel 2 was with him all day today as he was campaigning. His day focused mostly on getting out and talking to voters. We were with him at the Sears Mall. He was just kind of trying to talk to people. As you can hear, we've actually got Channel 2 up on the screen. As a lot of the results are coming in, the crowd is really reacting. For example, when the slide came up over the unity ticket of Walker and Malott, huge cheers from the crowd. People are very enthusiastic. But once again, Senator Begich has not arrived yet. We are hearing from his spokespeople that he's just taking his time after campaigning all day, taking his time with his family, and hopefully he'll be arriving very shortly within 5 minutes or so. But once again, haven't seen him quite yet. Mike, Maria?
All right, Nikki, keep us up to date and let us know when Senator Begich arrives. Again, he is trailing at this point, but his supporters still seem very enthusiastic.
They're excited.
And one number we haven't talked about yet tonight is the outstanding absentee ballots. Our latest information from the Division of Elections, they still have roughly 13,883 absentee ballots that they have not received in yet. I haven't done the arithmetic on the difference between Begich and Sullivan in that Senate race. We'll be keeping a close eye on that because those votes will be counted over the next several days, and if it's a really close margin, those outstanding absentee votes could come into play.
And that's one thing that the Division of Elections, Gail Fanumi, I kept trying to get across too. It's going to be several days between the absentee and the question ballots are counted. It could be days, it could be weeks before we know some of these races. So
we'll have to see how the
patient.
evening progresses and how the votes cast today and the early votes that they've already counted and see what the margin is. All right, let's take a look at the latest numbers we have in the race for U.S. Congress, our single seat in the House of Representatives. And again, Don Young holding on to a commanding lead at 52%. Democrat Forrest Dunbar has 39% in that race. Jim McDermott, the Libertarian, holding strong at 8%. Again, that's with 123 out of 441 precincts reporting roughly 28% of Alaska's vote counted so far tonight.
And not a bad showing for Forrest Dunbar, it's his first time running for office and not a well-known candidate at that. Actually, Steve McDonald is now standing by at Election Central with Forrest Dunbar. Steve.
Yep, Maria, he's probably got the best campaign slogan in this year's election. That is Run, Forrest, Run. And Forrest Dunbar is here with me here at the Eagan Convention Center. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Good
Thanks
to see you once again.
Yeah.
Down about 13 points right now. Still early in the evening. How do you feel about the returns thus far, and how are you doing? Does that sound nice?
We certainly are down, and I think it'll tighten a little bit as the night goes on. But if I was Don Young, I'd certainly be feeling pretty good about the results right now.
So how do you feel? This is your first time out.
Yeah.
You're really an unknown when it comes.
I was.
Was not anymore. You were. But how did it feel to get out there? What was the reaction that you got from people?
Well, it certainly was a process. When I first launched, after I got back from active duty, and we launched the campaign or relaunched the campaign, it was very hard. We had a lot of doors closed in our face, and people just didn't want to meet with us. And gradually, we built up our name recognition, and there were a series of things that happened. Getting endorsed, winning the primary, the Kodiak debate. And it led to, it's true that we're down now, but I think that's still a pretty remarkable showing, all things considered. And I'm so thankful to all the people that have supported my campaign, the people that have contributed, the people that have signed waves, people that have knocked on doors. It's been an amazing experience.
Again, it's really early.
Yeah,
We've got
it is.
27% of the precincts reporting right now. 27% of the votes, I should say. Yeah. So there's a long way to go tonight.
Sure.
What do you do with this performance this evening now? 2 years from now, you get another House race, you've got other elections coming up. Is this a one-shot deal, or is this the start of something?
I don't think, I'm certainly going to be involved in public policy in some way in the future, and I probably will run for something again. I can't say for sure that I'm going to run for this again in 2016 or going forward. But I would say to all my supporters around the state, might as well go ahead and hang on to their yard signs for now.
Okay, sounds good. What did you think that at one point in time maybe that Don Young was ripe for the taking?
I never saw it as something, I knew it was going to be an uphill battle. From the moment we started, I knew it was going to be something like this. I never saw it as him being vulnerable necessarily. But I believe that there was a message and a story that had to be told. I still believe that Alaska deserves more ethical and effective representation. But if Don is elected again, I'm hopeful that he will continue to represent the state well the next 2 years, or he will represent the state well the next 2 years. I'll also say that the Don Young that I saw the last week, or the last two debates in Fairbanks and on running on the debate for the state, who was much friendlier, frankly, much more respectful, just seemed much more kind of participating in the process. If Don Young is that Don Young, I think he'll be a good representative for the next 2 years. If we see the Don Young we got in the Kodiak debate, it's kind of a different deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, long night ahead of you still.
Yeah.
You got a lot of votes yet to be counted, but a good showing thus far for a
thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming by.
My
Forrest
pleasure
Dunbar,
to be here.
U.S. House candidate. Mike, Maria, back to you.
You can hear us. Steve, if you can hear us, just had a question if Forrest Dunbar is still there.
Just a second, Mike. I got some people yelling in
That's
my ear.
okay, no problem. Look,
Go ahead,
any
buddy.
candidate that goes up against Don Young is facing a political juggernaut in the state of Alaska. I mean, Don Young still got a really strong showing tonight, but first time really out of the chute for Forrest Dunbar. He's pulling 40% of the vote. Don Young got into some trouble with some comments he made up at a high school in the valley. If Forrest is still there, does he have any thoughts about whether that hurt or helped his cause?
Well, I think I think that probably did help him. And it's still not over yet. As you said, it's still early in the counting, Mike. There just seemed to be an awful lot of anti-Don Young backlash. There was the remark that he made on a Ketchikan radio station over the summer, sort of a racial slur there. And then, of course, the way he acted in some of the debates, some of the remarks that he made, the whole confrontation up in Wasilla with the high school students. And I think a lot of people were pretty angry at Congressman Young. So he still is. He's one of the highest ranking. If he's not, he's the highest ranking Republican, I think, in the House of Representatives right now. It looks like he'll win his 22nd term in office. He has a lot of popularity. He does great constituent work. Certainly, I don't think what he's done obviously didn't warrant him being booted from office tonight. And I think it probably helped that he had an inexperienced and relatively unknown opponent. So I think that helped him. If he had had a much stronger opponent, not saying that Forrest Dunbar is a weak candidate at all, but he didn't have the money, didn't have the apparatus around the state, and he didn't seem to have the notoriety to pull an upset off tonight. But I think Don Young maybe he's turned over a new leaf here this evening, as Forrest Dunbar said. Over the last couple of weeks, he was a much different man.
Well, clearly Forrest Dunbar hasn't given up, because he told his his fans, his supporters, to save the signs.
Yeah, very gracious move of him to actually compliment Don Young and his tone of the last week. And after Young had issued his apology at AFN, Forrest Dunbar actually told us on camera that he felt like the apology was coming from Don Young's heart. So very gracious comments from his Democratic.
It was a gracious comment. You're right. And he has been like that all the way around. He has chastised Don Young on a number of occasions when he felt he stepped over the line a little bit. He criticized him heavily at the beginning of the campaign because he felt with somebody with his seniority in the House, he should be holding a number of committee chairmanships, powerful committee positions. And so he ripped him on that count as well. But when Don Young did well, it was like he was almost rooting for him to become a better representative in an odd way.
All
and
right.
we're hoping to hear from Don Young sometime this evening. Thanks, Steve McDonald at Election Central. Appreciate it.
Tracy Sinclair is standing by with a look at social media and how Alaskans are communicating via the net.
Good evening. We've got a lot going on, and of course we've all turned to multitaskers now. We have the TV on, but often have our laptop or our tablet in hand. And if you do, of course, you can go to KTUU.com. We have this great Decision 2014 banner, and when you click on it, you will get current totals of all of the races across the state of Alaska. You can check out the ones in your region. Down at the bottom of the page, we are developing a new map. As we start to see some of these precincts come in, you'll start to see this populate, and you'll get to see what parts of Alaska voted Republican or voted Democrat in the Senate race. We've also got one for the governor's race and the marijuana vote as well. And then if you just want a little bit of a break from all the politics, you can check out one of our great photo galleries. You can also upload your own photo of your I Have Voted sticker. We've got one lady that, Deb Straub, voted from her hospital bed, but she has her sticker, and we certainly appreciate. And I'm not sure who did the vote there, but Grant Cohen sent that picture in, or posted that picture. These are some great photos from all across Alaska showing how many people have voted. And guys, we did see earlier there was a great push for the Alaska Native vote, and it sounds like that push certainly worked. We're getting villages that have reported 55 to 73% of their populations have voted. Those are just amazing totals across Alaska. We'll have more on that, and of course what you're talking about on social media in just a few minutes.
Love those I voted today sticker.
They're great.
I hear we have hundreds so far. Hundreds and hundreds.
We had to make a second gallery because the first one got too big.
All right, Tracy, thanks a lot. We'll have more of our coverage of Decision 2014 here in Alaska coming up.
Channel 2 News continues its coverage of Decision 2014.
All right, welcome back to our coverage of Decision 2014. We have a new wave of numbers that has just hit. 36% of the vote coming in from all across Alaska. Let's take a look at the race for governor and lieutenant governor. And again, with roughly 36% of the precincts reporting, Bill Walker and Byron Malat's lead still holding at this point, but tightening up a little bit. the Parnell-Sullivan ticket at 46% roughly to the Walker-Malott ticket 48.5%. Again, that's with roughly 36% of the precincts reporting at this point.
In the U.S. Senate race right now, Dan Sullivan, the Republican in the race, is leading 49% of the vote compared to incumbent Mark Begich with 44.5%, 160 of 441 precincts reporting at this time.
That's about the same margin that we've seen throughout the evening. In the race for Congress, Don Young continuing to hold his commanding lead with 51% to Forrest Dunbar's 40%.
For Proposition 1, which is the AO37, the labor law, should it remain law? The yes crowd says 46%, has 46%, the no 54%, 39 precincts reporting out of 122. This is just the Anchorage area.
This is a state ballot measure number 2. This is the marijuana initiative. And again, with about 36% of the vote reporting, the yes for legalizing marijuana vote continues to hold at around 53%. The no vote standing at around 47% of the vote.
And ballot measure 3 to increase Alaska's minimum wage. So far, 69% say yes, 31% say no, with 160 precincts reporting at this time.
Ballot measure 4 is about protecting Bristol Bay. This would give the state legislature essentially the final say in any large-scale mining, and this is being seen by many folks as another major obstacle to the Pebble Mine project. And right now, the yes vote continuing to hold at roughly 66% to no at 34%.
Well, there's been a big push to get out the Alaskan Native vote.
Channel 2's Austin Baird is in Dillingham tonight with a look at Election Day in rural Alaska, and he joins us via Skype. Austin?
Well, the flood of commercials made its way out here to Dillingham, so did the mailers. And to put it nice, people here tell me that that's been annoying. What I've seen here in this dark Democratic stretch of southwestern Alaska is a busy push. A lot of people believe communities like this are going to decide if Senator Mark Begich holds on to his seat or if Republican Dan Sullivan is going to take over. In an area where a state rep was literally chosen by a coin toss, people know well the importance of every single vote. Here in town, people cast ballots at City Hall. So did some people who commute from nearby villages and others summoned here for jury duty. What many people here are passionate about isn't all that surprising. Many voters showed up to support candidates in a ballot measure they believe would best protect Bristol Bay salmon. Few groups are gathered around town watching the results come in. How excited they end up being later tonight is going to largely depend on how the numbers look. Mike, here live in Dillingham, I'm Austin Baird, Channel 2 News.
Austin, we had a little bit of trouble. Thanks for the report. A little trouble with your audio up top, but I think we got the point. Big turnout tonight. A lot of interest in the Senate and governor's race and in that Bristol Bay initiative that's on the ballot tonight.
And I love that we could be in the outlying areas too, so that we can see how the rural areas are reacting tonight to those numbers.
As we mentioned just a few moments ago, the ballot measure here in the municipality of Anchorage that would either keep AO37, the labor law, on the books or repeal it. Right now, the repeal vote is leading. Let's go back out now to Election Central. Rebecca Palsh is standing by with Gerard Aslan, who's with the repeal camp. Rebecca?
Okay, you guys, as you said, we're with Gerard tonight. What do you think, kind of the message as you've been speaking to folks, it's kind of, this is a public safety issue. Could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, our concerns are that if politicians were to control how many people on a fire truck or the equipment that's used by our police personnel, that not only endangers the workers, but ultimately, causes danger to the community as well. And we're very worried about that.
We spoke with Chris Birch earlier, who's been kind of trying to keep the AO37 as is, and he said it kind of comes down to being outspent. You think that's a case here?
Well, unfortunately, we were pushed to what turns out to be the most expensive ballot in the state's history. And, had this occurred on the regular ballot, maybe it would have looked differently. But the reality was, to be able to communicate our message from a defensive position that we were placed in, we had to spend money. And that's just the reality of a campaign.
This issue has been ongoing for a long time now, and it's been through several different forms of it, the assembly approved, and then kind of where do you think this should have ended up?
Yeah, I think ultimately the only reason we're here today is because of an appointed person who got on the assembly, and then ultimately the mayor was able to force this through. It has been now twice. They've tried to repeal it. A majority of our elected officials have tried to repeal it. And I think ultimately it should have just never gone this way. We're always willing to sit down and talk, and that's all we ask for.
Well, how could it have been different, I guess?
I think it could have been different had if a certain administration has a desire to make changes. We have always had a track record of engaging in that conversation and doing so collaboratively rather than in secret.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca.
Good night. Mike and Maria, back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. And don't forget, you can keep tabs on all the election results on our website, KTUU.com. We'll be back with more coverage here on Channel 2 in just a couple of minutes.
This is a Channel 2 News special presentation, Decision 2014.
And welcome back. Our Decision 2014 special coverage continues as the numbers continue to pour in tonight.
Channel 2's Steve McDonald and Rebecca Paulshire are down at Election Central at the Egan Center. We'll get to them in just a moment. But first, we wanted to update you on the results we've seen so far with about 36% of the precincts reporting. Let's take a look.
All right, the U.S. Senate race, which is being watched not only here in Alaska, but all across the United States, as the Republicans apparently have taken control of the Senate. Dan Sullivan, the Republican candidate here, still leads with 49% to incumbent Mark Begich's 44%. This is with 160 of 441 precincts reporting roughly 36% of the vote in. This is about the margin we've seen throughout the evening. Still
Nothing's
holding.
changed there, exactly. And the governor, lieutenant governor race right now, Bill Walker is leading with 48% of the vote, 45% for the incumbent Governor Sean Parnell. Once again, that's only with 36% of the precincts reporting.
In the race for Alaska's only seat in the U.S. House of Representatives, Don Young continuing to hold his commanding lead with 51, close to 52%, to Forrest Dunbar's 40%.
For the Muni Proposition 1 about whether to keep AO 37, the labor law, yes vote 46%, no 54%.
Ballot measure number 2, this is the marijuana initiative. The yes vote continuing to lead, but at around 53% now. It was up as high as 56%. The no vote on legalizing marijuana in the 49th state holding at about 47% again, with roughly 36% of the votes in tonight.
Ballot measure number 3 to increase Alaska's minimum wage. So far, yes, overwhelmingly 69% compared to 31% the no vote.
And ballot measure number 4, this is on protecting Bristol Bay and the salmon streams there, seen by many as an attempt to block the Pebble Mine project. The yes vote holding on to a commanding lead tonight, 66%. The no vote at 34%. All right, we're going to go out to Mark Begich's election night headquarters. We haven't heard directly from Mark Begich yet. Let's check in with Nikki and see if the senator has arrived.
Mike, Maria, I'm here with Senator Begich, who's just arriving. I'm going to try and get a quick interview with Mark Begich. He's here greeting his supporters. Looks like he's going to be addressing the crowd now, who's been waiting for him here for a couple of hours. So let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say to his supporters.
Thank you very much for being here. It's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long night. It might be a long week, so hang tough. It is exciting to be here. You have done, all of you who are here, thank you for getting us to this point. We have done an incredible grassroots grant campaign. It is why we are here today. And that is what makes a difference. You know, we could hear you across the street. This is the kind of crowd that wins elections. Thank you. I want you to know, we have seen this play before. You know, every time I run an election, I just like to win on election night once. But you know what? We take a win however it comes. And we know tonight, we know what's coming in. Almost all of rural Alaska is not even in yet. And we know this election, you know, I could tell you all kinds of policy wonk stuff, but I'm not doing that. I just want you to know I am so grateful that we're at this point. I'm so glad the TV commercials and radio ads are done. This This has been a hard-fought race all the way up to the last minute of 8 o'clock tonight when the polls closed. We were bringing voters to the polls. Those are all being counted in. It's going to be tight all the way, but I'll tell you something. There is no question in my mind that the end of this period, which I will not say in hours, but could be days, we will win this race because of and I want you to know, that doesn't mean we get to celebrate here every day, every hour, every minute. But there is going to be another celebration coming. But tonight we'll be here until all those votes are counted. Then we'll continue to work forward. We know there are thousands of votes that won't even be counted tonight because they were absentees and earlies. Those are our people. As you know, you went out there and made sure they were in. Now this race has been exciting for me. My son, my wife, my mother, we have campaigned all over. Other family members spread throughout this audience here. They've been doing door to door and everything else with all of you. That is the most important part of this campaign that has got us here, is that it's been about people power. It's not been about people from outside coming in to run our races. It's about Alaskans fighting for Alaskans. This is an amazing race that we've been in. So all I'm going to say, because I want to keep it short, because I want to say hello to many of you here, because like I said, it's going to be a long night. And, but I want to say again, thank you. Thank you as Alaskans, all the people who are not here, who worked tirelessly out in the villages, in the towns, in the cities, going door to door, making those phone calls. You are the ones that make this campaign possible. It helps me win. And it makes Alaska.
Mike and Maria, we're going to go ahead and try and get a quick interview with Senator Begich once he's finished greeting his supporters. And we'll come back to his campaign watch party here at Flat Top Pizza downtown.
All right, thanks, Nikki.
All right, Nikki Carvey-Hall reporting live for us. Even though he is trailing at this point, Mark Begich still sounding confident. He's counting on that rural Alaska vote. His campaign has put a lot of effort into getting out the rural Alaska vote. And as we mentioned a short time ago, Senator Begich seems to be counting a lot on those outstanding ballots. Still roughly 13,800 absentee ballots that still haven't been received in. And here are the latest numbers we have in the U.S. Senate race.
Here are the numbers right now: 49%, 49.4% for Dan Sullivan, Mark Begich at 44.5%. 1 point he did make. The roll vote is not yet in.
All right, and Nikki Carvajal at Mark Begich's election night headquarters tonight, trying to get an interview with him. We'll stand by for that. Let's go back out now to Election Central at the Egan Center, and Steve McDonald is standing by with Alaska's senior senator, Lisa Murkowski. Steve?
Mike, thanks very much. And if I can tear her away from my computer screen long enough, we'll talk to Senator
Still
Lisa Murkowski.
Yeah,
we've been going over the numbers. She's been reacting and giving some pretty good analysis, too. Thanks very much. So this is a very relaxed woman. She hasn't had to fire a shot yet this fall, not running for re-election, yet you're celebrating tonight pretty well, right?
Well, I'm celebrating. I think that Alaskans should celebrate because what we have seen around the nation is really kind of a wave coming our way, a wave that has changed the leadership in the United States Senate from a Democratic-led leadership led by Harry Reid that I don't believe was helping Alaska in our efforts to move forward on an agenda that would allow for jobs and pro-growth here to one that is going to be in Republican hands. So this is, I think, good news for our state. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to chairing the Energy Committee, which apparently has been confirmed here this evening.
That's like, congratulations on it. We had heard that earlier tonight, and we were hoping you'd come on with us to confirm that. That's great.
I'm able to confirm it, and let me tell you, it feels pretty good because this is not about a chairmanship for me. This is about the ability to move forward on so many of the agenda items that are critical, that are important to not only Alaska, but to the growth and the opportunities for us as a nation.
Let's get into that for just a minute. What does it mean specifically for Alaska, with you being the chairperson of that committee? And is there enough of a switchover in the Senate to avoid the gridlock that we've seen in the past couple of years to make a difference on legislation that might help Alaska?
Well, First of all, let's just talk about what it means from the energy perspective and setting the agenda, because that's what you do as the chairman. You set the agenda. You determine what initiatives come up. If it's going to be a measure to advance passage of the Keystone XL pipeline, if it's efforts to move forward on LNG exports, if it's efforts to move forward on how we are to develop our resources here as a state with revenue sharing or ANWR, I have an opportunity to set the agenda. I will be setting that agenda. So that is key to us. Now you mentioned the issue of gridlock. Can we eliminate gridlock just because you've had the leadership change hands? Not necessarily so. What this is going to require is for us to govern. As Republicans, if we now have the majority, this is not just about winning for tonight and holding that majority for a couple years. This is about governing. This is about demonstrating to the public, to the people of this country, that we have issues and responsibilities that we feel that we've got some pretty good ideas. We want to try to advance them. So we've got a lot of responsibility on our shoulders right now. This is not just about celebrating because, okay, we now have the gavel. This means putting the responsibility on the shoulders, doing the heavy lifting, doing the work that needs to be done, and advancing good measures that will benefit the state of Alaska and our country as a whole.
Give me your perspective on the Senate race that's going on right now. We still, again, we have a lot of votes to be counted yet.
Right.
It's about a 5-point lead for Mr. Sullivan over Senator Begich. What do you see for the rest of the way? You've been through a few of these things yourself. You know what it's like out there.
I've been through more than a few of these, and these can be nail biters. I think we have speculated all along that this would be very close between Senator Begich and Dan Sullivan. I've been working very hard to advance Dan and his ideas and his proposals for the state of Alaska over these past few months. I feel pretty good tonight. I mean, being 5 points up at this point in time is good, but it's not over until it's over. And I think the evening is early. We will see how things play out, but it feels good right now. And again, when you kind of take into account what we've seen moving across the country, the pickups that we have seen, where people have said the agenda that has been advanced through this administration is not working for our state. In a place like West Virginia that has been led by a Democrat contingent for the Senate for 4 decades, to have changed hands, to see the changeover, whether it's in Colorado or North Dakota or North Carolina or South Dakota. I mean, this is considerable. This is really very, very considerable. So we're waiting and watching all anxiously. It's probably going to be a longer evening for us in Alaska. But you know what? It's okay for the folks on the East Coast to be staying up late tonight and watching what's happening in our state.
And I'm sure they are, too. They're keeping
sure
a good close watch. CNN's down at the other end of the building from us. So
that's exactly right.
Thank you so much for stopping by, Lisa. Thanks so much.
Good to be with you.
Good
as
to be
always,
with you.
as always. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
And have a good evening, okay?
We're working it.
All righty.
Thanks.
Senator Lisa Murkowski stopping by. Mike, Maria, back to you guys.
And Steve, before the senator leaves, just a couple of quick questions. The Republicans now have a majority in the House and Senate, but it's not a veto-proof majority. Is she concerned about President Obama? He still has 2 years left in using the power of the veto to derail anything that the Republicans try to do. And does she have any thoughts about what the vote tonight across the country might mean for the 2016 presidential election?
Okay, I'll ask that. We've got a couple questions from the anchor desk.
Sure.
Mike wants to know, concerns about a veto-proof margin, about the president in the last 2 years of his term in office vetoing anything that may come out of Congress from the Republican-led Congress.
I mean, that's clearly the ability that the president has. Given the numbers that we're seeing across the country, we will not have a veto-proof majority in the Senate. I think that's very, very clear. But I think what is clear is that we will have sufficient numbers to try to really work with the House to advance those agenda items that I think are important to the country. We will put them to the president, and we will see where he may go with them. My hope is that the Congress the Republican House and the Republican Senate now will work with this administration to advance initiatives that are going to be good for the country. We've had enough of the loggerheads. We've had enough of the impasse. We need to dispel that. And I think part of what you're seeing tonight is the public has said, enough, we don't want this gridlock, so make something happen, Congress. They didn't see it happen with Harry Reid. Maybe we can make it happen now.
Is that part of the advantage, perhaps, because there's been such a sweeping change? Is it a message that's sent not just to the White House, but to all of Washington, D.C.?
I think it's a huge message, and I think it's emblematic of what the people around this country are saying. They said, you know, you guys got to figure out how you're going to make things work. You've got to figure out how you legislate. You've got to govern. You've got to do what we have tasked you to do. I think one sign that I've heard already this evening is President Obama has already reached out to some of the newly elected Republicans who beat out Democrat incumbents and said, congratulations. Maybe that's the olive branch that needs to be extended early on. But we have got to get this country moving again. We have got to be working together. I think if you were to ask the people in this room tonight what they agree on, they might not agree on their candidates, but one thing they do agree on is that the discord, the gridlock, the animosity needs to end. They're tired. They're fed up.
That was
and
the
I'm
number
with
one
them.
issue. Okay.
I'm with them.
All right, Senator.
So we got to work on that.
Thanks very much
Thank
for
you.
sticking around again.
Thank
Again,
you.
Mike.
Thank you.
Back to you guys.
Steve, thank you very much, and thanks to the Senator for us as well.